My man made it with a photo finish.
Yep.
And Ian is never late. He is always arrives precisely on time.
Precisely when he means to.
Exactly.
I'm here.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay. Everybody is here. Everybody do me a favor and just hit the share button, which I think is just me and my mom. For now. Yeah, people will roll in here. So let me send this to a couple people. If y'all want to text it to somebody, I'm going to send this to my boy Rudy Landa and Brandon Herndon, see if they want to jump in on this. And I'm trying to think who else I know that's seen the film. You know what? I'll share the YouTube link on good old Facebook, even though we're streaming to Facebook. So we are gonna get into some. Hey, Miss Karen, how are you? We'll give her Miss Karen a. Man, I've got to turn that down. That is so loud.
We did that once, and now.
Oh, now it's gone.
So, you know,
if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Don't touch it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let us know in the comments if you have seen Sound of Freedom yet. So I'm going to let you know right out the gate. This is not going to be spoiler free. We're going to be spoiling it right from the beginning, even though it's. If you've seen the film Underground Railroad, which it's funny, a few years ago, I actually met one of the guys that backed this film, and he told us all to go watch Underground Railroad, which kind of tells you what Tim Ballard does and how he got into this whole thing. And I had kind of forgotten some of this stuff. So my wife was like, I don't remember hearing about this at all. And I'm like, actually, we did, but she didn't want to watch it because she's like, I can't handle that stuff. I can't handle that stuff with kids. So. And I guess this was a little different because it wasn't a documentary. It was kind of a dramatized, the Hollywood version of well, actually, this wasn't a Hollywood version of a true story. It was very accurate. Only some things that they changed. Yeah, it's, I tell you, Miss Karen, we must gird ourselves and start facing reality. As we discussed with Nefarious, we can no longer afford to turn our eyes from the darkness and pretend like these things are not happening, because that's not the example that we see from Jesus, the disciples, or those in the Bible. They went and faced sin and the ugliness of this world directly, and it's time for Christians to quit hiding in the church. So, Ian, when did you see the film?
Last week, Wednesday, actually.
And Jonathan, you saw it opening weekend, right?
Yes. Yeah, I didn't see it opening day. I had to wait until the following Friday.
Gotcha. But still, so it's still the. Oh, what's up? Is that the Danny Deal in there? The Nuge man? Like, I like that too. Ted Nugent, do you have your bow and arrow? Are you crazy? Are you crazy and amped up and just high on life and just eating elk and shooting things with machine guns? I'm a conservationist, Joe. That's why I kill animals. Oh, Danny Deal, y'all, Jonathan. Right. Jonathan, Ian, Danny Deal is our cup of tea. He's a guitar playing, Nephilim believing, follower and
Nice.
lover of the Son of God. Yeah.
Yep.
He is our cup of tea.
You know, any man who loves Ted Nugent enough to put half his name in his handle, all right by me.
Okay, which one of you guys wants to lead off with your initial thoughts on the film?
Ian?
Okay.
Let the young go first.
It was a darn good movie. I was a little bit skeptical going in, not because I thought it was going to be terrible, but it's all the reviews that I had heard were like extreme one way or the other. Like, this is either far right QAnon conspiracy garbage, or it's the most important movie you're ever going to see, and it's amazing, and you must see it. And I was like, I don't know who to trust on this. So I went in completely open mind.
Money, money, money. Who do you trust?
Right. Completely open mind. And I walked out and I was like, that was a darn good movie. Just like as a film, like forget the narratives around the movie, just on its own merits as a film. It's a darn good movie. It's not perfect. I thought there were some editing, some pacing issues personally. I think they could have done a little bit more fleshing out Tim Ballard's relationship with his wife and his kids.
Yep, I agree.
But that aside, it was really good. Compare it to a movie like Taken, which deals with similar subject matter. Great film. Love that movie. But I appreciate how grounded in realism Sound of Freedom is, as opposed to something like Taken, which delves into sort of like the Hollywood action movie tropes.
Yeah.
Which makes it a fun movie, but there was like a gravity to Sound of Freedom, and I felt like I really appreciated just how grounded in the reality of Tim Ballard's story that the movie was.
I believe the word also is gravitas.
Gravitas. Yes. Yeah, no, it was really good. It was gripping, it was tense. It was well made. I respect how they treated the children. That little boy and little girl, as cute as can be. They are the heart and soul of the movie, and I respect how they handled their storylines. You know, that doesn't rub your face in the horrors of what was going on, but the way it's filmed, the way it's presented, they tell the story in such a way that you know exactly what's going on without having it shoved in your face. And that was a little bit of a worry of mine when I first heard about this movie, because I was like, you know, how do you tell a story about, you know, horrible, traumatic things happening to children without traumatizing your child actors?
Yeah.
And so I'm really glad it didn't go the way of like Cuties on Netflix, where it was just like, you know, what is this? What are you doing to these children? And they're like, oh no, this is actually a criticism. I'm glad they just avoided that. It was very well made, and Jim Caviezel turns in a great performance.
The conservative move for that would have been to just sub in some midgets, you know, for those scenes.
Well, midget actors are looking for work now because Disney didn't want to cast them for Snow White because it was ableist. I think I have that correct.
Hi ho, we ain't got no job.
I think Tyrion Lannister convinced Disney that it would be prejudiced against little people to hire them to play dwarves in Snow White.
Meanwhile, his entire career is built off of being a dwarf, literal, you know, dwarf in the world of
Yeah, well, I think he just wants to corner the market on, you know, dwarf roles, and he already has enough competition with Warwick Davis. So he was like, no more. I can't handle anymore.
You know, man, I gotta say, it's a little market, and I've been to wrestling, and dude, they're vicious, you know.
We all know he's an angry elf.
He's an angry elf. He's a South Pole elf.
He's an elf.
Sound of Freedom is really good. You should go watch it if you haven't seen it yet. If you look on Wikipedia at the description for Sound of Freedom, it says it's a 2023 American action film, which is like the most inaccurate description for this movie.
Very.
Yeah.
For one, it was made like 5 or 6 years ago. And then it's an indie film that was picked up by a Latin subsidiary of 20th Century Fox, I believe. Then Disney bought Fox and sat on this movie for 5 years.
We don't know why.
Right. Wonder why. I'm convinced the only reason they sold the rights to Angel Studios is because they were desperate for cash after having movie after movie tank at the box office, and also going to war with the state of Florida didn't help.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if they weren't strapped for cash, I think they would have just kept this movie on the shelf forever and ever.
Mm-hmm.
That is a hot take, Ian. That's
purely conjecture, but
brother,
that's
you're killing it. You're killing it, bro. You're so on it. Just go on until you're out of gas or until you need to refuel, because I'm loving it.
Yeah, I mean, we can speculate about why Disney would want to sit on a movie like this. $14.5 million budget, by the way. It just crossed $100 million at the worldwide box office. There's got to be some executive at Disney. If I was a Disney shareholder, I'd be like, why did we not distribute this ourselves?
Oh, that's so funny, dude. When I checked last Wednesday, a week ago today, it was at 54 million. So it's literally it's like doubled.
Yeah.
Its ad revenue in a week.
Well, it's done something
insane.
that most films. Actually, I don't know of any film. From what I didn't read the whole article, but I know it increased the second weekend, and that never ever happens. It was, I can't remember what it made the first weekend, but it made nearly double the second weekend, and it's partially because Nick, if you want to jump in, I'll send you the link, bro. I'll send you the Zoom if you want to jump in on this. You just let me know.
Sound of Freedom is trending like Top Gun Maverick. Like it keeps making more and more money the more it stays in theaters.
The quest for more money.
The quest for more money. I mean, it's great word of mouth. And it is a good movie, just on its own merits.
It is. It's a compelling film, and when you realize that it actually happened, that's kind of what.
Right.
That's the I don't want to say shocking, because it's not shocking, but it's pretty incredible.
I mean, it's shocking if you're a normie. Like I talked to some people that have no idea before
what's happening in the real world
came out what was happening.
Yeah.
This movie is, I mean, I spend so much time, like you two do as well, just like in this space talking to people who are like-minded, and I forget sometimes, like there's a whole world of normies out there that just have no clue what's going on. So this movie is doing
sad.
A lot.
It's sad. I don't know. I don't understand. It's funny. I was talking last night with Angela, J. Reese Bradley, and Shannon O'Connor. Shannon O'Connor's kind of hip to this stuff, but she came out of a lifestyle of homosexuality and witchcraft, so she's a little bit more seen kind of the dark side of the world. But Angela was like, she's like, I have no, like, where do you find out some of this stuff? And it's like, I don't even know. There's no one place, and I think it's like that on purpose, that it's not one place, because if it was going to one place, it would be like, Fox News. It's like, well, you can't trust them as far as you can throw them, because once the information is being disseminated from one place, it's what Chuck Missler always used to say about the Bible. The code has been disseminated in 66 books, so that if you alter or if you muck up one, you still get the message, which is what the brilliance of, that's what you do in code breaking. It's like, well, if you disseminate the code, then your message, you can't stop the message from getting out there. You know, but of course we had to go back to the OG of this, which was Alex Jones. You know, I mean, and the dude's a modern prophet, but I don't want to go down. Well, you know, if y'all want to catch up that, you definitely need to watch the red pill trad wife discussion we had last night. But Jonathan, what's your take on the film?
July 4th, I was working at my day job, and one of the buildings that we have is a theater, and primarily a live events venue, but it also does movies. And I'd heard about this movie. I had, read the reviews. My mind was already made up that this is an important, worthwhile movie. But I was like, I exist in this weird little, thing. And so anyways, I'm checking on like maintenance for like the front door, like checking on something and outside. And as I do, this older woman stops me on the street, downtown Franklin, and says, hey, are you guys playing The Sound of Freedom? I said, I don't know. I don't think so, but let me check. So, hey, what movie are we playing today? Almost Famous. So I'm like, it's Almost Famous. In my head, I'm like, the exact opposite of The Sound of Freedom. Okay. Well, then, throughout the course of that week, I had a couple of other instances like that where, there were these random encounters in my life where people were wondering if we were going to showcase this movie. And so it told me that, like, okay, this isn't just me existing in, this bubble, of the internet. Like, this is a real world thing that people are asking about, So anyways, I go see the movie. And the funny thing is, like, I have a complimentary but maybe exact opposite reaction to the movie that Ian had, where, like, this movie is so PG, so tame. This would have been an afterthought for Saturday morning TBN, not TBN, TBS entertainment, like daytime Saturday movie run,
like a Lifetime film.
20, well, that was, 30 years ago. 30 years ago, this would have been on Saturday morning, for the kids to watch as filler content, after Delta Force, and before the Atlanta Braves game, and then 20 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, this would have been a perfectly serviceable Lifetime movie, like, taken on its own merits out just as a film. I watch it and I say, you know what? Pretty tame, not particularly earth-shattering in any way, shape, or form. Not too crazy or wild or beyond the pale. Perfectly serviceable. Lacks in a couple areas. Definitely. I know that there are conversations that Tim Ballard had with his wife that were not shown in this movie that I was really kind of disappointed weren't in there. There are certain things where it's like, they could have done more with this. I wish they'd done more with this. The movie itself to me is like a solid B, maybe B plus. It has nothing really wrong with it, but it's also not the most mind-blowing, evocative movie of all time. However, the externalities around The Sound of Freedom, the constellations orbiting this movie, make it probably the most important film of, like, the past at least 10 years, if not 20 years. It absolute must see for anybody who, it is like the ultimate gateway drug of truth into this world for normies. And like Ian was talking about, Disney buried this movie for 5 years. And I think that's why. I mean, do they touch on Epstein Island? No, not really. There's like one bit in the movie in the second act, where they create something that sort of mirrors that scenario, but also maybe very tangentially references it without naming it, So it just, there's nothing in this movie that is so profoundly dangerous when taken on its own merits to the powers that be, except for the fact that it's dipping its toes into the holy water of reality that no one's allowed to talk about. And apparently that horrifies them. So like now it's, revenge, porn for dads with brain worms or whatever they want to call it. It's QAnon, and which, yeah, guess what? It is. You know why? Because QAnon was right about like 80% of the things they talked about, especially this stuff. When they talked about this stuff. Now, when they talk about the plan, of course, all that's crap, the 10 days of darkness and all the, Trump's the savior and
still
all
waiting. He's
still waiting. He's secretly the president at a underground military base in
Philadelphia. He's secretly trying to get himself arrested.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. He's playing.
This is 25-dimensional chess.
Right. You know what? It's him and Data. Neck and neck on Data. And
make it so.
Yeah. I mean, please make it. So
I'd love it. I'd love it if Q was right. But
that's right. Like that's the thing. We'd love it if that were right.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that all that stuff about Trump is actually the president and trust the plan, and Hillary's actually been executed by the military under Trump's orders. Like all that stuff, I'm quite sure is a left-wing psyop to discredit the rest of Q and what Q has actually talked about that's true, such as child trafficking.
Right. And that's the thing that, when you compare like all the other articles that have come out, Rolling Stone and the Washington Times and all these people, who before were praising cuties, but now they're going after this movie as being, conspiratorial and all this stuff. And it's like, thou dost protest too much, left-wing meat.
The editor of Rolling Stone, I believe it was, gutted an article by one of his like senior writers that talked about a friend of his who was indicted for child porn.
Yeah.
I mean,
so when you have what seems to me as a pure moviegoer, what seems to me a perfectly serviceable daytime TV movie that is not particularly offensive or outrageous. It's not beyond the boundaries of anything, right? As far as a fictional, movie, just a film.
Yeah.
When you have something that is that tame, that gets hammered on and dumped on that much, that's how you know there's something to it. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Why? Because that's going to get your grandma asking about, well, what about the Epstein list that no one's talking about? Who are these sex traffickers? Why is the border kept insolvent?
100%. He's on a roll.
That's the thing. To me, there's nothing in the movie that is red flag to the left-wing media except the bare little pinpricks of truth that might get the overwhelming majority of people who have dismissed QAnon, who are not MAGA people, who don't believe in adrenochrome, who don't believe in any of that stuff because it's all crazy. It might get them asking fundamental questions, and maybe someday they might ask why the Clinton Foundation was shut down, or they might ask why the border remains insolvent and why the border has, been clamped down by Trump, and why was that so bad, and why is it now like wide open, why is that maybe worse, and who's behind this, who's paying for it, who's pulling the strings. Conservatives understand the flow of money, and so do libertarians. Follow the money. That's what Penn and Teller used to say on their show all the time. So when you see something like this happening that is obviously horrible, and you realize, like, the genius part of that movie, I mean, there's some genius scenes in that movie, but for me personally, the most genius part was at the end when it's showing the text of, describing what happened as a result of the raid, and then the text fades to black except for the two words "the raid," and those get highlighted as white, and then they superimpose all the footage of the actual raid that happened.
Yes.
Dude,
Mm-hmm.
but you
Yeah, that
see
was great.
that, oh, it was genius, because now you're seeing that, like, oh wait, this really
This
did
really
happen.
happened. Yes.
Now you are responsible. When you are faced with the truth, you are responsible for that truth. And so now people will start asking questions. Wait, there really was a raid? Like, as a moviegoer, if I knew nothing about this, I'd be like, wait, holy crap, there really was an island raid like this? Like, let's say I wasn't into any of this stuff, right? I'm just a normal dude. I don't know about any of this crap. And I go see this movie because Jim Caviezel was in Frequency, and Frequency is a cool movie. And oh yeah, he played Jesus, and that's a good movie too. And he's got another movie, and he hasn't done anything in a while, so this looks kind of cool. And I like cops.
I like
so,
the Count of Monte Cristo.
Oh yeah,
Count of Monte Cristo is great.
I can't
Jim
believe
Caviezel's been a star in the making for like the last 30 years.
Yeah, dude, Count of Monte Cristo is such an amazing movie, start
Great.
to finish. Is my man Guy Pearce nailing it once again.
Yep. He plays a
So-
great butthole.
He really does. He really does. He's one of my favorite actors. So yeah, like, normal dudes would go see this movie, and when you see that ending, with all the actual footage and the data and everything, you're like, wait a minute, I just thought I was seeing a movie, dude. Like, you're telling me this is real? And then you go out and you start reading, and then you start reading what people have been telling you not to, like, oh, I shouldn't have seen this movie. Why should I have not seen this movie? This is about something that's real and terrible.
Yeah.
CNN, Rolling Stone, whatever politics.
It's absurd that we can't even agree. And I know people have started to poo-poo on him, but Steven Crowder's been saying it for like 4 years. There is no common ground. And he really, I'm surprised, being such a movie nerd, that he hasn't turned that into the scene from Rocky 3. He's banging up against the mirror. There is no tomorrow. There is no common ground. There is no common ground. There is no common ground. If we cannot say human trafficking, sex trafficking, child trafficking is bad, there is no more room for discussion. Period. It's not even period. It's just period. PERPRD. Period.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's absurd.
Honestly,
It's absurd.
there are so many lines in the sand that would have been worth spilling blood over along the way. But ultimately, if you can't agree that we should stop the sex trafficking trade, then, like, okay, that's the line everybody should be able to get behind. And truly, you're either on this side of the line or you're on that side of the line. Like, that's an inflection point that is worth whatever happens.
Pretty much, man. I mean, when I heard about that Rolling Stone article, and I looked at that guy, and then I heard him interviewed, and I was like, oh yeah, this guy's ordering hot dogs and pizza. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm not going to explain it to you. But
with extra almonds.
Yeah, if you just go look it up. Just go look it up. And gird thyself before you do.
Yep. Once you fall down the Podesta rabbit hole, man, it gets pretty dark. I mean, there's so many things about that. And again, like, have I told the story on air before about the Miss America? Gabe, I know I've told it to you like 3 times, but
say it, share it on air.
I don't think I've heard it, for what that's worth.
So, like, that'll be good, because I'm trying to find this girl. I can't remember her name, but I know she was at least a Miss Tennessee. So In 2015, I went to the H. Clark Distillery grand opening here in Thompson Station, just right up the road from me. And it's a bourbon distillery, and I got invited there by some well-to-do friends. So, like a scab, I tagged along. And I'm sitting at the table, and across from me is this woman. I was 32. She was probably 35, maybe at the time. And she was she was like a VIP guest. She was the former Miss Tennessee, maybe competed in Miss America or Miss USA. I don't know exactly what. Anyways, but she was retired, like 10 years retired, or 8 years retired or something. So I was asking her, okay, well, what's your pet cause? And I'm thinking it's going to be like, give every blind kid a puppy, or save the whales, or, give the starving pygmies like fresh
World
water.
peace.
World peace, education, some other like pablum, brainlet, tapioca brain answer that you usually hear out of these bimbos. And because most of them are. So but no, this chick, married, mother of three, looks me right in the eye and says, sex trafficking. Like, come again?
A real one.
A real one, yeah. Because, dude, I mean, this was 2015. Like, this is before Pizzagate. This is before Trump. This is before, like, QAnon. Like, this is before you could get any sort of brownie points for mentioning this stuff in the right room, right? Or, it just whatever. Like, and dude, like, in polite company, you don't mention this kind of thing in 2015, before Pizzagate. Because before it became political, if you mention something like that, I mean, that's like, I can't think of anything that's actually worse. I don't know. It's like the most unappealing subject to talk about in polite company. And so I knew she wasn't lying.
Yeah.
Basically, no one had heard of this at the time. It's 2015. So I asked her, is like, okay, do go on. And she said, yeah, I worked with, back when I competed, and then, still to this day, I worked with local law enforcement. And so like Metro PD, TBI, federal agencies, because Nashville is the sex trafficking hub of the southeastern United States. Because we have the river, we have the railways, and we have three major interstates, all converging in one city. And she said, like, a lot of it had to be done off the books and under the table with like shadow funding, because there were powerful people who, wanted to keep it moving. That's a 2015 conversation. So this absolutely exists. If I'd had that conversation with her 2 years later, I would have thought, maybe you've been spending too much time on the internet, But you have that conversation back when there's nothing to be gained from talking about it. Like, well, you can't just, I mean, I guess you could make that up. Sure. But like, why would you? It won't make you look cool. It'll just make you look kind of scary.
Yeah.
Because I've known some private investigators, by the way, who trade in like some pretty dangerous, scary cases, and it kind of makes you not want to be around them, So, yeah, I mean, this thing obviously exists. This is a real thing and a real problem, and has been for a very long time. And the Sound of Freedom is the thing that I think so many people in power are so afraid of, and their minions are instructed to demonize it, ironically, as much as possible, because it will get all the normies who have never thought about this before going down informational rabbit holes that they don't want them going down.
Yeah. And I think that's why, while I think it would have served the story and the film better to be not explicit for explicit's sake, explicit for reality.
Yeah.
I think it was God willed that they did it this way, because when people watch this and they're like, why? It's kind of like when we saw Nefarious, like there is, to give that movie, it's a PG movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's a PG
Yeah,
movie.
what is its rating?
R.
It's
Yeah,
R.
Nefarious is
rated
R.
R.
Nefarious is rated. I was talking to my mother about that today. That movie is rated R, and it is absurd. But why? To close the gates. And the same thing with this. You watch this film, they show more explicit things on shows like Chicago PD.
Yeah.
I know.
Or CSI SVU.
Exactly.
You know?
Oh yeah, and they go into way more gory details and stuff in those programs. But I believe the director, the makers of this film, we are going to give them no excuse, because they're going to attack it anyway. And when people see this, they're going to be, what is the matter with you people? Because exactly to your point, it's like, this is a Lifetime movie. This is it's so tame. It's intense. And really, the only reason it has that power behind it, I think it's anointed, number one. Number two is because when you're watching it, for those of us who've been reading about this stuff and hearing testimonies, and, like I watched that Underground Railroad movie with Tim Ballard. You're watching it knowing this stuff happened. I really want to use stronger language, but I can't. I'm trying to be civil and sanctified. But for those that don't have a clue, when it clicked for them, and this is what Jim Caviezel shared in multiple interviews, we're like, man, they don't even touch that. They kind of touch, they don't really get anywhere near close to Epstein Island. But he said every time that film was screened, when they were on that island, he said people would start whispering to each other. And then he's like, afterwards, he's like, what were you talking about? And they're like, Epstein Island. And everybody like shouted out Epstein Island. So like for us, we're like, this is nothing like Epstein Island.
Yeah.
For us. Yeah. But they're
and
like,
even if it were, what is their, okay, so let's say they don't want to have a movie, associate with let's say they're false theories about Epstein Island. Okay. Why? So what? If there's nothing there, if those theories are false, then what do you have to fear? Why shut the movie down? Why make it hard for people to actually watch the movie? Why lambast it in the media? What are you?
Don't look over here. Oh, Titan sub exploded. Oh, look at this over here. Right. Didn't you know that happened the day of? Oh no, look over here. Something's going on over here.
Didn't you know they're about to indict Trump for the murder of Tupac? I think. I think I have that right.
I think his album. Yeah, it's in his album. I didn't die. Trump killed me. Yeah.
I didn't die. Trump killed me. Boom. Ba, ba, ba.
That's track 13 on his fourth album.
Right.
But that's exactly it. It's distraction. It's distraction. Like you said earlier, Jonathan, they protest too much, and it's only. It's like with Trump, man. Like the more you come after this guy, the more you fuel him, the more you try to shut this down. And it's gotten to the part. It's gotten actually to the point where God has gotten involved. And I don't say that, I'm not trying to be churchy. You don't have a film with a limited release that is trying to be shut down by everybody, and then the second weekend it opens in more theaters, because theaters are like, yo, we want to make money. Forget what you guys want. Forget what you're saying. We got to have this. Yeah. We don't have this. Like, we were gonna go see it, and it opened up in like we wanted to go. We have a Regal in town that we like to go to movies in. And they didn't have it there. And then when we went to go buy tickets, presto magico, hey, it's in Regal now. Because Regal wants some of that Sound of Freedom. They want that freedom money. This is the Sound of Freedom. It's the sound of you paying for your popcorn. I mean, that is supernatural favor.
Dude,
there's no other way to look at it.
I told the executive director at the theater that, and he's a very money-driven guy. He's a pure just capitalist business owner. If it makes money, let's do it. I'm all for making money at this theater. And I said, dude, like, no matter what you read about it, no matter what the politics of it are, we are in the heart of Williamson County. This is a white, conservative, Christian, traditional nuclear family hub. If you want to make money in this town, play to your market, man. You know, and he understands that. And I was like, dude, I know you probably will be put off by it, by the, you know, the adjacent politics of it. Get a copy of Sound of Freedom and play it. Your theater will sell out, you know?
Every showing for weeks.
Yeah.
He could
You
show
could play every day.
You could play it every day, and then after it starts to cool down, be like, hey, Sunday at 4:00, and you would have I'm telling you, that theater, if it wouldn't be sold out, it'd be full. It'd be full because people would just want to continue to support that film.
Right. And
I think Sound of Freedom is hurting Mission Impossible. Like, it's doing that well.
It didn't hurt Mission Impossible as much as it smacked the spit out of Indiana Jones.
It smacked the dentures out of.
There was an Indiana Jones movie.
No, actually, there's only 3 Indiana Jones movies.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
There was a parody that came out that Kathleen Kennedy.
And now there's an AI deep fake.
Yes.
Okay.
They took the corpse of Harrison Ford and AI generated the old Harrison Ford on it, and they put it on film, and nobody went to see it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And it was funny, too, because I think Indiana Jones was, for like 4 days, at the top of the box office just by sheer virtue of like Sound of Freedom not being in as many theaters at the time. But even then, especially, I think I can't remember, Ian or maybe Gabe said it, but like once the second weekend hit, like that's when the scales like totally tipped, you know, and everybody stops.
I'm pretty sure Sound of Freedom beat it its first weekend when it was in theaters anyway, with the limited release.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Even better.
It definitely did better on its opening day, July 4th, than Dial of Destiny. And I say Dial of Destiny intentionally. I'm not calling that movie Indiana Jones.
Like
it did better on July 4th than Dial of Destiny did on July 4th in half as many screens.
That's God.
Yeah. Me too.
The Dial of Dentine.
Dial of Dentine.
The dentures of dust. The dentures of dust. The dentures of dust. That's a combination. The minds have come together. The dentures of dust.
You know what's funny is we typed that at the same time, but he still beat me on tiny little iMac keyboard by like 4 seconds.
He's Apollo, man. It's Apollo and Rocky. You beat me by 1 second. It's 1 second. It's very hard for a man of my intelligence to handle.
Hang on. I'm going to mute my my screen because I got to take this dog out. I might end up trafficking my dog here. Hang on.
Oh.
Not poor Lily.
I know. Look at her. She's
Lily.
She's baby all day.
She's adorable.
She's a good dog.
He said he's on Chromebook, no chiclets. Yeah, it's my takeaways. I'm trying to think when I talked to my wife was just kind of not shaken out of fear or surprise, just what do we do? You know, because she's doesn't have the male tendencies of violence, and she was saying, you know, like things need to violently happen to people that perpetrate these kinds of crimes. And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, and she stated like what needs to happen to them, and then of course I took it to the next level because I was like, yeah, that's not enough, you know.
No, good start.
Yeah, it's like, well, that's maybe for the appetizer, but there's a main course coming, and they're not going to enjoy it.
No, it's much higher up on the food chain. So,
well,
I mean, that's the thing with that movie. You know, again,
I think I put it in a Facebook post. Like there are lots of people. But by the way, I saw whole families in the movie theater. I don't know. Did you guys see that?
I saw it with my whole family. I have 3 younger siblings. They all went.
Yeah.
I have to. Nick, you're 100% on point. I think we need to bring back public executions. I think the civility, I think we've become too civilized for our own good, and the inmates are running the asylum and the criminals are running the country. And yeah, Nick, I think it's I tell you my concern, and we were talking a bit about this last night, is you have the extremes, and we've been so extreme with our lack of justice.
Yeah,
that we're going to swing so hard the other way. I think this is why you're going to I think we're as we enter into these end of the last days, I think that's why you're going to have those public beheadings that talks about in the Bible. I think when we rubber band back the other way, that's where it's headed.
Well, and it'll never happen because the powers that control that, the powers that have the monopoly on violence are the same ones who are utilizing this program. So you can never rely on the Roman Empire to cut back on its own state-sponsored, incorporated, I don't even know what the word for it is.
Yeah. I mean, until Caesar sees a vision of the cross in the sky and converts, I mean...
Yeah. I want to
that
address
moment's going to come at some point.
Yeah, I want to address a couple things in the comments. My friend Corey Sampson says it's scary raising a kid now. We used to be able to go outside and, play until the streetlights came on. And, I mean, I live out in the middle of nowhere, and I still will not let my daughter go out where I cannot see her on camera, and I leave my cameras up on my phone so I can watch her, because I know if somebody came onto my property, I will get to her before they do, and I will have one of 3 weapons that I will be able to get on the way to her, and I'll be able to mitigate the threat. So it's sad that I have to think that way in this day and age, even living out here in the middle of nowhere. And to Nick's point, he said there's no justice for the victims and their families when the perp gets 3 square meals a day and a bed for life. I 100% agree. And I tell you, here's the insult to injury, Nick. The family pays for it. Their tax dollars pay to keep that prisoner alive. And I'm sorry, Christian, pro-life Christian, that's not biblical. It's not biblical. The Lord doesn't change. They're like, well, Jesus forgave the woman of adultery. Rod Saunders actually has a very interesting point about that. But go read Leviticus. Go read Genesis. What God rained down fire from the sky on people's heads.
Well, go read the New Testament. I mean, Jesus said it himself. It's quoted in the movie. Better a millstone be tied around your neck and you be hurled into the ocean than to hair on one of these one's heads.
He says that. Caviezel says that line with it
it
borders on a sadistic relish. It's one of my favorite scenes in the movie. I think Ballard himself has made a comment this is the only time in the New Testament that Jesus sounds like Tony Soprano. It sounds like a mob boss. The pedos are sleeping with the fishes tonight. What can I say?
Yeah. And there are so many people who talk about sitting in this movie and just when the credits roll, they're weeping or they're praying or they're having these great group prayers or these cathartic moments. Dude, I bolted out of my chair, wiped the tears from my eyes, and I started making phone calls of I know some people who know some people who are some very dangerous trigger pullers. And I'm like, dude, there's got to be somebody out there. I'm off the books. I'm not on anybody's payroll. I can, and it's so weird. You can talk to some of these guys and they're like, oh, well, I know of a 3%er biker gang that sets up stings and they trap these people, and they get to rough them up a little bit before they turn them over to the cops. I'm like, that sounds hardcore to you? What part of that sounds hardcore to you, dude? You're going to beat on them a little bit before they get taken up into the system to absorb tax dollars in a, prison system for the next 20 years. Oh yeah, that's real hardcore.
No, and that is the thing. I'm hoping to bring on some pastors and some men like my older brother, who's been in law enforcement for 20 plus years, to have these discussions. Because as a believer, I'm kind of fed up with it. And the problem is we cannot trust our systems to deliver justice, to protect us, to keep us safe. I mean, I go to the theaters armed. I go many places where it says no guns allowed. And I'm like, yo, I'm concealed carry. I got my license. I don't break the law. And as the stats show, people that get concealed carry are synonymous for being law abiding. But I'm not going to go somewhere and be a liability and put myself in harm's way where I got to wait 20 minutes for your behind to show up. And then you're going to get a call from your captain and this is going to turn political. And you guys are all going to sit out there and wait to come in while you listen to everybody around me getting shot up. Ain't going to happen, bro. Ain't going to happen. There's a couple of things in the comments I want to shout out. So Nick made a great point. If we're supposed to be examples of God's grace in our conduct, why not his justice? See David. See King David. He was so riled up by the disrespect. Goliath didn't even do nothing but mock God and his people. And he said, why hasn't anybody struck this fool's neck from his shoulders? And Nick Zacharias, he's from my hometown in DeLand, brings up, I actually did not know that this was going on. This is going to be news to y'all. Check this out. They did this with Captain Marvel, by the way. I commented that. Disney did this with Captain Marvel. He said, check out why Sound of Freedom Theater has 4 or 5 people in it. The app is showing people had purchased all the seats. This is seeming like a new trend. So they're going in and they're making, oh, look, nobody's buying tickets because you go in there like, well, I can't buy tickets since it's sold out. I mean, I tell you, and that is how the devil operates. It's by deception. But as Danny said, we have to do more than just talk. I agree. But this is what I told Shannon last night. We're not going to go 0 to 60. You're not going to go from your couch, not going to church or just maybe showing up to church every once in a while, and then all of a sudden go out there and be a freedom fighter. If we're not going to start showing up to our town hall meetings, if we're not going to start talking to people out in the supermarket, if we're not going to become active, you don't go from I don't work out to I'm bench pressing 350. You got to take baby steps, and we have to start making these steps. And I think a step forward is going and watching this film. I really believe that taking a step forward is going and watching this film because you're going to be faced with the reality of the ugliness of what is happening in this world. And if you're like, well, no, it's too ugly, I don't want to, well, then go live in dreamland, go live in La La Land because you don't want to live in the real world. You don't.
Yeah.
I know this crazy stuff happened with election. I know there's things happening, but, what can I do about it? Okay. Well, when they show up and knock on your door and they drag you out and they do all the ugliness. Well, you couldn't do anything. You couldn't do anything.
And to answer Nick's question, we know who the customers are.
Oh, well, it's the people that are the ones that are supposed to be doling out justice. I mean, look at Epstein. It was the judges. It was the attorneys. It was the attorney general. It was people in the White House.
Mm-hmm. Duly elected officials.
As I said before, you have to go and look up those WikiLeaks. Why do you think what's the Julian Assange? Why do you think they've been after this guy? Why do you think this guy is holed up and living in like in an embassy or like he was living in an embassy for like a year?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't a hotel. It was like some embassy in like Nicaragua or something like some place where he couldn't be arrested.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because he outed people in this government. And here's how you know it's true. This is not conspiracy. Why in the world would they be hounding him if all that junk was a lie? Oh, he made up those emails about Podesta ordering pizza and hot dogs for Hillary and Obama and Michael.
For what? Like, what kind of a deep cut esoterica kind of conspiracy theory would all that effort possibly generate? It wouldn't generate enough to fabricate it. It wouldn't be worth it, I guess is what I'm saying, if it were fake.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, well, and the same thing with Alex Jones. If Alex Jones was over here just making stuff up, it's all lies, it's just entertainment, I'm just pretending. Why was he taken off Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Insta. He was literally taken off every social media platform inside of 48 hours. Why?
Yeah.
Why? Why?
Yeah. The Sound of Freedom.
Why?
Well, and that's what makes the Sound of Freedom so powerful, because it is the key that unlocks the door, the door to the portcullis leading to the gates of hell. I mean, if you want to see the gates of hell that are Hollywood, DC, Wall Street, and that's just in America, then there's your key. Because once you start down that path,
forever will it dominate your destiny. I couldn't help it. I couldn't help myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And
but it's true.
That's good.
It's true. Well, you know, but and you know what, man? I think this is why I told Corey to watch Nefarious and Sound of Freedom, because they are two sides of the same coin. You look at how that demon rejoices. And this is how they worship. This is when you hear the stories of John. Oh, I think it's John Rodriguez. He was one of the most powerful warlocks in New York City. Okay, have you guys heard this guy's testimony?
No.
It's powerful. It's like Witch's Invitation Super Saiyan. I mean, it is just, yeah.
Has he done interviews on YouTube?
Yeah. He's been on a little bit of Christian television, but not much, because he gets there and people they can't take it. Hey, Michelle, there's a lot of mama bears out there packing heat. Yeah, you better. My wife just got she got a different belt so she can, you know. I mean, it's y'all better be armed. I mean, be armed with the sword of the Spirit, but sell your cloak and carry a sword. But when that demon is talking about how they worship, and you have this ex-Satanist talking about they go to abortion clinics and worship because there's innocent blood there that they gain power from. And exactly, Danny, that demon in Nefarious, they perfectly show what their worship is and has been since post-flood, where they it was John Ramirez. Ah, nice, I got it the second time around.
You know, you got to be able to say it in the Kurgan's voice.
Ramirez. I killed his women. I killed him and took his woman.
They used to throw babies into a pit with wild dogs.
There can be only one. I'm a French Scotsman.
And a Scotsman wielding a katana that he got from Prince of Japan after being raised in Egypt.
Yeah. I have this movie right on my shelf.
But it's so good, we love it anyway.
Testament to how good of a movie that is, by the way. You got a Frenchman playing a Scotsman, you got a Scotsman playing an Egyptian with a katana, and you got an American playing a Russian who's doubling back into being an American goth. Go figure.
Better to burn up than fade away. Perfect. And I didn't make any money off it.
Yeah.
But he's been immortalized.
That's why they don't make them like that anymore.
They don't make them like they used to. Clancy Brown, you are a blessing.
You know what's interesting, like about stuff too, like, and John Ramirez is a perfect dovetail into this. John Ramirez's testimony, and then the Sound of Freedom. Okay, if you watch both of those, and you don't just dismiss them outright, and you start following the trails, and you start digging and learning and realizing what they're talking about is true. Even if you're not a believer, even if you're a materialist, even if you're an atheist, the end result of what these people are doing, it's sort of like that Illuminati in the music industry and in the rap industry thing.
Yeah.
It's like, what they really have any power? Obviously, whatever they think they have and whatever they're worshiping is producing something incredibly destructive. Mm-hmm. So whether or not you believe in the ethereal nature of it, the spiritual nature of it,
yeah,
way doesn't matter as far as your responsibility to try and do something about it. You're still on the Sound of Freedom side. You're still on John Ramirez's side at the end of the day, because even if Satanists are just a bunch of, goofy LARPers, you know, they're still worshiping at abortion clinics. Well, that's pretty awful.
And here's the crazy thing. As I wanted to make sure Caps was here because I wanted to give him a big shout out. He sent me this article today with video showing, and we heard about this a year or two ago about these Satan clubs being started in schools.
Yeah.
Oh man, they're full on. And if you don't know, witchcraft paganism is actually the fastest growing religion in this country. There are more witches in our country than there are Presbyterians or Methodists. It's one or the other. It's either Methodists or Presbyterians.
Yeah.
And the reason I guess the Lord brought John Ramirez to my mind was he talks about how they worship. So he talks about going to abortion clinics, and it's not just the blood. Okay, that's he has to allude, because you can't just outright and say it's a crime what they were doing. But of course, as we all well know, the ones that could send them to face justice are complicit or involved, or both. But he talks about the discipline and dedication of their worship. They start at midnight and they do not stop until the sun rises. When they have their worship services, and L.A. Marzulli, to take it back to somebody else that some of the people in our community are aware of, he talks about when his home congregation, that he was a worship leader in California, he showed up, he was there to unlock the building, and he came, and there was a candle that had been burnt all the way down to the bottom, a dove that had been sacrificed inside a pentagram. And he said within 6 months, the pastor was dead and the congregation was destroyed. Within 6 months, these people are not playing, Christian.
Yeah.
What are you? What are we doing? Are you praying? Are we in the Word? Are you? We can't even stand to be in service more than 70 minutes. Now, granted, I will give you this: 70 minutes in a place where people are there to be entertained, or they're dead, or they're indifferent, and and I'm not talking about a style. Because let me tell you, that Presbyterian church that I was serving at for the last year, that pastor, he, Danny knows him. He cares. He didn't get up there and he was not flippant with his sermons. That dude, it was icy hot. Steadfast delivery, but man, brimming with passion. Because he sees this stuff. I mean, dude, if you're alive and you have a pulse and you see this stuff, it doesn't get a rise out of you, something is broken.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, are you sending Nick the link? Nick wants to see the John Ramirez link. Nick's gonna leave us and go watch John Ramirez's testimony.
Yeah, I can. Yeah. I don't know which one to send because I got a bunch of them here. So I'm just gonna send. We'll do this one. This looks pretty short.
And that's messed up, Corey, because a broken pentagram shows exactly you're breaking the power of the devil. But some people are just too churchy, man. Some people are just trying to be churchy and win religious points. They're pharisaical. That's all that is, Corey. But you know that because. I love you, and you know this. Probably, you gotta find real believers. You gotta find people that are in this for real. They're just not going to church to show up and get gold stars.
Yeah, well, we have that problem, of there are no Belgian Malinois and German Shepherds left in any significant numbers in the male Christian population. It's just a bunch of golden retrievers, man. We just all want to roll around and get our bellies rubbed and play fetch all day. Like, I just find it hard treating any male who walks out of that movie theater like a man if you don't have the fire of righteous hatred in your heart for like justice, to want to go do something, if you're broken and weeping at the end of this movie, I'm like, dude, you're a golden retriever. Like, I don't want those men. I want the men who are like, I had to go home and have a bourbon and stare at the wall for an hour because I have a lot of tools, but not a lot of targets. And I don't know who the targets are, but like, I'm sitting on this volcano.
Well, and then you have the one church that, well, the outlet is to become more feminine and lay at the altar, run around, and we're gonna praise the gay away, we're gonna praise the evil away, and
Right.
You have the other that, I mean, let's just read books, let's just read more theology and more doctrine, and that's gonna fix it.
Right, the navel gazing, theological, lip picking.
And when you have men that actually stand up, like the Marine in the subway.
Yeah.
Nick, I texted you the link already. I texted you the link. Nick, okay. Nick's fired up. Nick's ready to join in. Nick, I texted it to you, bro.
On here. We're not doing a show tomorrow night, so I'm pretty excited if I can get my brother in.
Oh yeah, Nick is.
I get to meet Nick.
Yeah, Nick is. Can't text me. Okay, well, how do I set? Oh, email it to him. Okay, I'll email it to you then. Oh, flip phone. Oh my gosh, you're Amish. I'm gonna just start calling you Amish Nick. I'm just gonna start prophesying it over you.
He's already growing the beard.
Holy cow, Nick. Okay, yeah, there you are. Nick there's your email. Bam. Okay, I sent it to you. He's hardcore. No, you're not hardcore unless you live hardcore in the legend. Sound of Freedom was way hardcore. Yeah. Oh gosh, and then you start to think about all those people in Hollywood that are probably involved in this stuff, and then it just turns your stomach and like, can I even watch films anymore? I mean, I'll be honest, man. Ever since all that stuff, came out, it's just like, it's hard for me. Like, I haven't been able to watch Forrest Gump. I'm just like, I don't know if I can enjoy this anymore because of what this guy's been accused of. And as hard as it was, I mean, it was like when all that stuff with Michael Jackson, I mean, for a decade, that stuff hung over his head until I went and, oh, no, actually this, but that's the Saul Alinsky. That's what they do. That, for anybody that tries to come against this stuff, they're like, oh, we're just going to accuse you of what we've been doing, Hillary.
Projection, yeah.
Dude, they do it. They have it down to a stinking science. But as Jesse Lee Peters says, it's because they're of their father, the devil. They lie very, very well. Okay, Ian, while we're waiting for Nick to hop on, yeah, Michael Jackson was amazing, man, and he didn't do any of that stuff. If you want the full breakdown, you got to watch Razor Fist. Razor Fist walks through the whole thing, and it will make you will never believe anything you hear from a major media outlet, as you shouldn't. If you haven't figured that out yet, what is wrong with you? Yeah. Ian, you've been quiet.
Actually called the Rageaholic, though, right? For anybody who may not.
Yeah, the Rageaholic. Yep.
Yeah. He's a national treasure. I would go to Arizona with Gabe just to meet Razor Fist and spend a day with him.
Bro, I would take that guy. I would buy him a $200 steak.
I'd buy him a gun.
You had it. Well,
I'll buy his book.
I'll feed him and you can outfit him. Oh my gosh. Oh, hold up. Oh my gosh. It's happening. Nick. Oh, dang it. I hit it too early. Nick, where are you, man? I can't see you yet. Your camera is off.
Hear ye. All hail.
Oh, Sookie now. Yeah. This just got a new level of epic, y'all. Y'all are
Let's
not
go.
ready.
This is
He's got to get okay, Nick. You got to get some headphones because your sound is looping.
Well, that's you guys long.
Okay, Nick. You got to get some headphones because
All right.
your sound is looping.
Hold on, I'll get my Princess Leia's. Hold on.
There you go. I'm gonna mute him while he's getting that.
True dad fashion.
Oh man, he's Nick's ready, y'all. Y'all don't. He's that B personality. So like when me and Jonathan are, he's like, once again, I think Rocky 3 it's just the theme of the night. That's the spirit. That's the spirit animal of this thing. No, he's not getting killed. He's getting mad.
No. Here's Nick is like, the reason why Nick and I work so well together is because we are like Matt Stone and Trey Parker, in that like Trey Parker is like me and you, Gabe, how it's just always, we're just always here. And then Matt Stone, quiet in the corner, observes, assesses, and then comes in with just a giant spear thrust right to the face.
Haymaker, knockout, one punch. You don't know where it came from, how it happened, but you wake up at the hospital and you're like, how did I get here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Corey is appreciating the South Park references. B Cloud, what's the T? You got to. I'm missing the reference, but maybe it's because we're okay, Nick. Thou hast the floor.
Yo, Gabe, can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
We can. We hear you. You're pretty. It's beautiful. You're in there.
Look at that beautiful ginger beard.
Look at that.
Did you say ginger beer?
I can't see Gabe though. I can't see. No, not ginger beer. No, not ginger beer. It's coffee. So anyway, I can't see your video, Gabe.
It's because
video,
the way I have it set up is so I look. I can't do the cameras because I'm using the same system to do the live stream. Okay. I have my stuff set up looking really good, and then I can't put myself in the Zoom. So you just have to imagine all of my hand movements and my face gestures because you know how animated I can get, especially I must break you. That's Rocky 4, but I'll take it, Danny.
How awesome would this have been if Nick was not wearing a shirt right now?
Yes. Everybody take your shirt. No. Okay, Nick. Nick, jump on it, man. Like what's obviously there's much on your heart to share. You went and saw this like opening night, right? With Rihanna, your wife of 23 years now?
21 years. We didn't see it on opening night. We, saw it on the night of our anniversary though, which was July 6th. What night did it come out, by the way? I don't even know what night it came out. The
July
4th. It came out on the 4th. That makes sense. Yeah, we saw it on the 6th, and Mike Fisher, one of our sponsors on the show, Jonathan told him that my anniversary was coming up, and I didn't know he did that. And Mike Fisher bought my wife and I a ticket to go see the 7:00 showing. So I was like, well, yeah, man, I wanted to see it anyway. And so, yeah, we went in. It was definitely deeply moving. And you feel a couple of things, like Jonathan was saying. You feel like you want to go, you're ready to go ring necks. Like you actually start considering, how much am I willing to lose to do something?
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, you feel drained. You feel dead, and you feel like you're going to continue to remain in that feeling of just being, feeling the despair and depression and anger until you do something. You feel like you have to do something. And the message at the end of the film, in a way, I thought was kind of, it was a frustrating message. So, you guys saw it. You stay after the credits, right? Did you see the special message at the end of the film?
Oh, yeah.
No, I didn't.
I'm glad they did that. After the credits roll, Jim Caviezel comes on, and he gives a presentation about why this film is so important. It was released 5 years later than planned. And right now is a season of awareness, trying to raise awareness about the problem. scan this code, buy someone a ticket, get the movie out there to raise awareness. It's an awareness mode. That's what they're saying. But if you're a dude and you watch this movie, look, you're beyond awareness. You want to do something.
Yeah.
The frustrating thing is, what do you do? What can you do? It's almost like watching the news and you see some tragedy.
Mm.
There's nothing you can do about it. It's on the other side of the world. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
What are you going to do? What can you do? Are you willing to, cash out some of your 401k and get on a plane and fly across the globe or disc, whatever the case may be? I'm a globe guy, full disclosure, but you never know. But are you willing to do that? Are you willing to take all your vacation time for the year and go actually, lay hands on the problem, so to speak? Because if you're not, then you're going to have to wait for the problem to come to you. All you can do is vote. That's all you can do.
Well, I think there's more than we can do. I hear the frustration because when you come out of that film as a father, you become the Trump analogy. You become a hammer looking for nails.
Bro, I'm going to tell you something. When I got done watching that movie, I came home. I gave my daughter a hug so hard she farted.
Bro, I get that.
Blanks.
That was the sound of freedom, baby.
What I love about it can say 3 sentences and they're all funnier than anything I've been blathering on about.
Well, the sad thing is I'm like, I appreciate the humor, but I totally get that, man. When you have a little girl and you're watching, I mean, I felt, it's almost like you want to go and watch Taken. It's funny that Ian brought up Taken. It's like you wanted a Taken-like scene because they, once again, in an effort to give Hollywood and the critics and the media no excuse, they even hid the violence of him taking out that guerrilla leader.
Yeah.
I mean, he killed that man with his bare hands.
Yeah.
And we didn't even get to see it because as he's, the daughter is, she's closing her eyes. And so she's just hearing noise. And then she opens her eyes. She sees a little bit and then she closes it again. So you're kind of seeing it from her perspective, which I thought actually was brilliant film, portrayal.
Yeah. I think that's a great creative decision.
Yeah. Genius move.
Yeah, because they're not trying to give them an excuse to be like, well, it's gratuitous violence, and it's funny that they're like, oh, this is the dad's brain worm and blah 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 blah. I'm like, they didn't show anything. Taken is
Taken is dad's brain worm,
dude. Taken
Sound of Freedom
is Taken is the LARPing, the cosplay, I'm the dad that's gonna take on the planet to save my daughter, and it's like. Bro, reality is like, dude, she's gone before you ever get on that private jet.
So, okay, question for you guys. Let's say we're looking at, from their perspective, we present that question to them. Why is Sound of Freedom not okay? Why is Taken okay? What do you think the media's answer would be to that question?
Follow the science. They would dodge it like they do everything else.
Well, it has to do with what you guys were talking about earlier. Is the media's answer is going to be Taken wasn't based on or aligned with or adjacent to any Q conspiracies. Taken had nothing to do with the things that we were being presented online during, Charlie Vector 19er. When all of these things started bubbling to the surface, you can't align Taken with far right wing conspiracy. But for whatever reason, because of the parallels between what happens in the movie and Epstein Island, they can equate this, or not equate, but align this with conspiracies we were hearing coming out of QAnon over the past few years. That's what they're going to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, the adjacent politics, definitely.
Just the content of the films.
Oh, see, I see.
It would be
They got
grossly
him.
hypocritical.
Bro, Nick, they are totally trying to stop you, man. Like the man's got his finger on the pulse because he's getting freeze framed. And now they just took out Jonathan. Oh my goodness, they're coming after the Goslings.
See.
Go ahead, Nick. You just got to repeat. You just break it all down again.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, I'm going to get nice and close, looking in the eye. All right, so the reason, what I think they would say about Sound of Freedom, what they'd say about Sound of Freedom that they wouldn't say about Taken is that Sound of Freedom is aligned with QAnon conspiracies. That's what the media would say. That's why they're going to demonize it. They can make it adjacent to QAnon and some of the things we were hearing. It's just like you guys were talking about earlier. But that's not the case with Taken. It was made several years earlier when none of this Epstein Island stuff had really come to the surface.
Mm-hmm.
Taken wasn't... The girl was taken in the movie, but the movie wasn't about child exploitation and sex trafficking, necessarily child sex trafficking. The movie was basically John Wickian. You get a mad dad, right? He's going to, someone takes his daughter and he's going to go on a killing rampage. That's acceptable.
Yeah.
But if you start touching on what's really going on and you're trying to bring a visual presentation to raise awareness around a real problem, that's where you're going to start. It's like Jonathan says, you don't start taking any flack till you're over the target.
Bingo.
That's my thought.
Ian?
I think he summed it up perfectly, to be honest. I don't know if I have much to add to that conversation. Taken is 15 years old, by the way. That movie came out in 2008. It's been a while.
Wow.
The only thing older than us is Liam Neeson's hair dye.
Yeah.
Look, I'm an Irishman always playing an American.
Just I got drunk and I wandered down the street looking for my daughter.
I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want. But at least I'm not a Frenchman playing a Scotsman.
Or a kilt. I got to cut Eli Roth in half. No, was it Tim Roth or Eli
Tim
Roth?
Roth. Tim Roth.
Tim Roth.
Yeah, another great actor.
Another great film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good point, Nick. I think, if the politics weren't adjacent to it, it probably would be just disregarded. But, one of the most damning bits of evidence against everybody in the media really can be attributed to Disney burying the film for 5 years. I mean, the film was done in 2018.
Yep.
And so...
And Tim Ballard was all over. I mean, like, he wasn't hailed, but he was on
testifying
CNN.
Before Congress.
Yeah, he testified before Congress, on CNN, on Fox, on MSNBC, because he actually did this stuff. And when he did, the funny thing was, I think when it started to go downhill for him, and it's funny, I actually wanted to say something. Michelle Gentry said, she's kind of echoing a little bit of what Nick said. She said this movie is closer to home as well, where the Taken movie is some far off country. Also, fun fact, interesting, if you remember, Taken, Liam Neeson's character was in the CIA. So we're just going to leave that there because they need some good press because the CIA is full of loving good Americans that just love they're actually perpetrating this nonsense. Anyway, In that Underground Railroad movie, what he exposed a little bit of, which kind of touches on if you got some real deep, I'm talking like pure aluminum. You know, we're not talking about aluminum hat. We're talking aluminum helmet. Like you're talking about aluminum, armor. In the Fall Cabal series, you see the correlations. It's not far jumps. You're not even walking across the street. You're going from bedroom to bedroom when you watch that Underground Railroad film, because you actually mentioned it, I think, Jonathan, talk about the Clintons with the Clinton Foundation. They were in Haiti where Tim Ballard went to go and rescue children, and he set up in that film, in that documentary, by the way. So this is not fiction. This is camcorders. This is reality television. Actually, it's not even reality television. And they were in there where the Clintons were supposedly, supposed to be building all these homes and orphanages and stuff that they didn't, except they were outsourcing children using the CIA, using the FBI, and he was in the middle of it. And that's when it's like you saw him disappear from them. When that documentary came out, they're like, "Oh no, we can't have this stuff. We can't have this stuff coming out." And if you ain't heard about that, that is a fact. That is a fact. This is why the entire music industry turned against what's his face from the Fugees, Wyclef Jeff, because he raised millions of dollars and stuffed it in his own coffers, just like the Clinton did, and didn't help. You know how many houses they built in Haiti after that hurricane and after the We Are the World Part 2 that was a piece of trash? 4. They built 4 shacks after raising like $50 million between Wyclef Jean and the Clinton Foundation. But you know what happened? A lot of kids disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting ticked. Oh, I'm getting mad. Somebody else needs to talk. I'm gonna shut my mouth off.
That too. I got to tell you something about that too. I don't remember the name of the charity, but there was a charity started that was funded by the Clinton Foundation, and the charity's purpose was to basically get kids out of the trafficking that was happening in Haiti.
That's right. That's right.
Of the charity. And the director of that charity that was funded by the Clinton Foundation, the director of that charity got caught actually trafficking the children they were supposed to be rescuing. They were trafficking the children.
Jeez.
Into the U.S. out of Haiti for sexual exploitation.
Isn't that when the Clinton Foundation got tanked because that woman got caught with like 30-something kids?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the sad thing is, before this film came out, go ahead, Jonathan. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, how badly do you have to screw up to be so, like, to create so much damage that the Clinton empire can no longer protect itself from your damage?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I think it was the Clinton empire. I believe they were behind it. I think they had an interest in trafficking children, but they didn't want to put at risk the assets of the Clinton Foundation. So they had another charity started that they could fund that could take the fall.
Well, isn't that how these globalists work? That's how Soros works. He doesn't do anything directly. He sets up foundation, he sets up other businesses, and he funnels the money through all these things. So, I donated money, but I'm not doing that. I'm not calling the shots, even though you're like, well, aren't like 80% of the funds coming from you? Well, yeah, but I'm not running it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Antifa is just an ideology.
Yeah.
But to your point, Nick, talking about this out loud, where 3 years ago, these conversations were basically happening point to point. You'd kind of look at, a guy would say something, just, you just drop little catchphrases. And you're like, oh, wait. Dude, you know, and we wouldn't have these conversations out. And it's sad that believers, Christians, I mean, like my buddy Brandon Herndon, I mean, he knows about this. Like, you go into church and he and I would talk about this stuff out in the open, trying to, if you're not going to engage, I'm going to antagonize you. We're going to annoy you.
Yeah.
So you're either going to engage and question, but most people just leave because they don't want to be confronted with reality. That's You know, that's why it was originally called this red pill thing, because it's like, well, you can stay asleep and you can stay in this fantasy world, or you can take the red pill and get the shock of your life when you actually understand what's happening in this planet. So I think the first step is, one, speaking out. I think, you know, that is something we can do, but it's also to be prepared, man. I think all being responsible citizens, and it's not about, oh, you're out here, you're getting ready to go out there and commit acts of violence. Like, no, if you are armed, you can protect. If you are unarmed, you are a liability. That's just a fact. I mean, all you can do is put your body in between somebody. You know, if something happens, oh, I guess I can sacrifice myself. That's it, because I have no sword.
Yeah. Did you guys ever? I know I've probably talked to you individually about it before, but has everyone seen season 1 of True Detective?
No.
I haven't seen it.
100% worth it. Really, really worth it. Because it's ultimately
Jermaine.
It's very germane. Yeah. Now it's done in a very different style. It's not a Christian production, obviously.
I told my wife I got to get VidAngel so I can watch some of these shows, because I can't do the language doesn't bother me as much, but it's you never know when a sex scene's going to happen, and it's like I can't do that. That's a liability for me.
Same here.
There are a couple of those in season 1 of True Detective that can be fast forwarded through, and you know, you don't miss anything, but it's holistically it's worth it. There may be even like a fan edit cut out there that somebody has done where that's been removed. There are only 2 maybe 3 that I can think of total. But season 1 was a gothic horror detective story that was about these powerful elite in this Louisiana backwater who were kidnapping women and children and using them in satanic rituals. And I mean, and dude, this was made in 2014, you know, and I don't know if they were pre-programming and telegraphing, or if somebody was trying to get the word out. I'm not quite sure.
Maybe a little bit of both.
Yeah, maybe. But there's this powerful scene, man, where Matthew McConaughey's character, who's this outlier, you know, disconnected, rough around the edges detective, is sitting across the table from this very powerful, almost Kenneth Copeland type preacher, whose, you know, cousin is the governor, you know, in Louisiana. And he's asking the reverend, like, you know, I want to look at your files from when you had this, you know, this foundation. You had all these, you know, church private schools, you know, but, you know, a lot of things happened and there are a lot of missing records. And the guy the reverend asks him, what's this about, detective? And Matthew McConaughey's character just flat out says, dead women and children, you know. And as soon as he says that, they pipe in this really eerie background music that almost negates the rest of the dialogue in this distracting, very, very like effective way for the theme of the scene, to where like everything that's said after that doesn't really matter between these two people, because he's shown him his hand. He's like, here, I'm telling you what this is about. I'm sick of this dance that we're doing, you know. And the whole show pretty much is about them trying to stop this, you know, and trying to stop what is literal satanic ritual abuse and sacrifice, you know, of women and specifically children. So, you know, that was released in, I think, 2014. So, you know, even then there were touchstones on this stuff that might have started to wake some people to it. You know?
Well, here's what I don't understand, or maybe it's not even a lack of understanding. Perhaps this is something that this is a drum, I think, the four of us and those of you in the comments, because it ain't just it's time to stop living vicarious through the preacher, through the pastor. It ain't just our job to do this stuff. Yo, what's up, Chris Hoyt? Yo, this is the kid that does the lawn at our house. He just texted me. He's like, dude, I've been watching for 10 minutes. I'm so hooked. This kid, man, he's not even 20 years old. He's got a business. His kid is killing it, man. Got a big old truck, big old trailer, a couple of driving lawnmowers. The boy's working, loves his country, loves Jesus. Our cup of tea. Good to have you in here. Googly Slayer, Chris. So I was here's the crazy thing for believers. How in the world do you read the Bible and see that there's been extreme devil worship throughout all of history, and then all of a sudden be like, well, we're civilized, and just doesn't happen anymore. There's no such thing as Satanism. They're not sacrificing children and doing things with their blood to worship Moloch, to worship, Asmodeus, to worship, no, that's just it's just been happening through all of human history.
The Enlightenment was great PR for Satanism.
Oh, drop it, Ian. Go ahead, bro. Applause.
Yeah, no, French Revolution, Marquis de Sade, we don't need the church. We don't need the clerisy. We can kick out the king. We can cut ourselves off from this Christian foundation that we've built ourselves up on because we've advanced past that. We're smarter than all that backwards, old-fashioned nonsense about our daddy in the sky. We don't need that. We have the sciences and the arts, and we're sophisticated now. Meanwhile, what are we doing behind closed doors with all of our other revolutionary friends?
Yeah. And that ideology, unfortunately, had a heavy hand in the formation of this country.
Yep. That's
And
a fact.
Yeah.
Nick, go ahead, man. I see you. I see you. I can hear you thinking. I can feel you thinking. I'm like Darth Vader. It's like I can feel your presence.
No, I think Ian's right. I think the Enlightenment, the 18th century, 17th and 18th century, there was the rise of reason, and founding fathers wanted to throw off the shackles of monarchy. They were all Masons. They were trying to build something here, free from established monarchical governments, and they wanted to build something on the foundation of their Masonic beliefs. And I suspect there was a lot of the stuff going on behind the scenes. They were all deists, which is to say they believed in a god, but that is not to say that they founded this country on Judeo-Christian principles. They founded this country on Masonic principles.
Yeah.
And you can believe what you want about the Masons. I personally happen to believe they are quite Luciferian.
There's a woman who is, and I know I think I mentioned this yesterday. Most prophets are quacks, but it's not to say that I don't believe that there are some people that are legitimately gifted and called to be prophets. The problem is there's so many false ones and so many fakers that it kind of ruins the real article. But it's the
we probably interviewed some of them.
Yeah, right. But it's the Novus Ordo Seclorum, Nick. Her part of her ministry is pulling people out of Masonry. And because she's Irish, her husband is Scottish. They live in, Great Britain. Out there, I think they live in Scotland, the birthplace of. I mean, it's not the birthplace of. It's birthplace of Scottish rites, or Scottish Masonry, but it's not the birthplace of that pagan. That's paganism. It's just kind of where It's one of the disseminations of it. But man, it is rife with all sorts of demonic oppression and possession.
Oh yeah,
and
that does not surprise me.
It shouldn't. And once again, we're kind of like, well, some people are, and you have people that are professing Christians that are, well, my dad was in it, and I'm like, y'all, we have the internet. You sound like a Jehovah's Witness or a Scientologist. Like, you're not going to go to the internet and like, this is what they believe when you get to the 33rd and third degree. People have come out of that. People have been delivered and like, oh yeah, no, we're there. We get to the top and it's like, oh no, it's Lucifer is actually the god of this world, and the God of the Bible is the enemy. It's basically what what's his name? Walid Shobat talks about. He said basically, if you take the Quran and you take the Bible, and it's the same story, except in this one, these people are the good guys and these people are the bad guys, and in the other book it's reversed. So you have to figure out for yourself, where's the truth and who's the bad guy, who's the bad god.
Yeah.
And it's funny because the Bible doesn't say you should listen to the Quran, you should listen to any prophet outside this book, whereas the Quran says, oh no, the Bible is true, the Bible is from God. So by its own logic and reason, you have to say, yeah, so, yep, we got to throw this one out.
Yep.
Got to.
Yeah, the more I learn about like what the Quran actually says, the more I think it's just like Islam's just like a Christological heresy. Like, you affirm Jesus, but you deny his divinity and his eternal sonship. And like, yeah, that's pretty standard Christological heresy to me.
Have you heard?
Anyway,
have you heard that
neither.
there's I don't know if he's Afghani or if he's Indian or Kazakhstani. He's from that part of the world. It's somewhere between India and Afghanistan. Imam who came to Christ, who came to belief in following Yeshua. He said, I took the Quran, and in the Quran it says Jesus was born of Maria, the Virgin. Jesus made a bird when he was a baby. Jesus healed the sick. Jesus cast out the demons. He's like, so Jesus is greater than Muhammad. He's like, because Muhammad did none of this. So he's like, he's just following the logic of this. Like, wait a minute. Jesus is like so far beyond Muhammad. He's like, he's born of a virgin. He did all these miracles. He did all this stuff. Why in the world are we following Muhammad? Like, what? Like, this doesn't even make sense. And he went to his imam to like hit the imam above him. And he's like, go study, go pray. And he prayed, as many Muslims do. Many of them come to converse. They come to Christ because they pray and Jesus reveals himself to them.
His vision. They have visions.
It shows their faith. It shows how little faith we have. I mean, isn't that crazy? You have Christians like, well, I don't ever hear from God. I don't even, well, you don't believe? Well, yeah, I do. Really? Because this guy who he's never been to church. He's like, Lord, if you're real, show yourself to me and I'll follow you. And he shows up and's like, follow me. And they risk life and limb. And literally, these people have to run out of they lose their families. They lose their communities. Because if they stay and preach the gospel, they're killed.
Yep.
So that's their option is, well, I can take my family and leave my entire community, leave my family, which if you understand how those dynamics work in that culture, it's not only you're losing your entire world, you're losing your honor, everything.
Yeah.
But what did the Lord say? He's like, man, if you'll lose it all for me, I'll give you everything. So what good is it to gain the whole world and lose your soul? We're preaching over here. They're getting. Somebody take it. Pass it.
Well, I think I have great respect for Muslims. I have generated more respect for Muslims in the past few years than ever before, because in a tragic way, like what you're talking about, Gabe, these are obviously people who are willing to practice what they preach.
Disciplined.
They're dude, they live it. They really believe. Okay. So now I can look at a bunch of different metrics and a bunch of different factors that you do not want me talking about that will, make them look not so great. But I respect anybody who is willing to suffer for their principles, and especially for their religious principles, because your religious principles are almost unprovable until that moment that none of us can confirm with you, which is death. So your religious convictions, pretty powerful, if you're willing to actually live by them, and they're actually willing to live by them. So when one of them converts to Christianity, to me, that's more powerful than any 8-year-old in America that gets saved at, vacation Bible school. I was one of them. So I got a lot of admiration for those people, man. I mean, one, they're willing to die for their cause. Okay, that's impressive. How many of us are willing to do that? Because most of you people watching this, at some point, statistically speaking, you weren't even willing to not put on a mask for your convictions. Okay, much less die for conviction. You wanted to keep your job. They are willing to go to jail. They're willing to kill. They're willing to be cut off from their families. They're willing to do whatever it takes, man. That's impressive. That takes character. And we've spent the past 30 years poo-pooing that entire religious people group, this entire second half of the Semitic equation. And I just, it's like, man, when you really look at, when you line them up on paper, there's not a whole lot that, there's a lot of overlap in the Venn diagram of what Christians should be and what Muslims are. Now, there's obviously enough there to keep us separate, but
Charlie Kirk was on Patrick Ben-David, and they had a great discussion about that, because they were actually, Patrick was pointing out, he's like, listen, I don't care about the theological differences. We are aligned in morality.
Yeah. Yeah.
These he's like, I don't understand why they are not all Republicans, because look at what the Democrats are for. It's like, that is against everything in Islam. Everything.
Yeah. Dude,
it's our favorite word, Jonathan. It's haram.
Dude, I've wanted to say it 8 times this episode, and a lot of conservative Christians are waking up to that. I know a lot of the ones who are far deeper, right wing than most normal conservative Christians. We've been there for years now, understanding this. But truly, if you sat down with your average Muslim man, and from the Middle East, and said hey man, America's got some problems, doesn't it? And then you guys started comparing notes, you'd probably be surprised.
Yeah, it's actually, it's interesting. Danny put the in the comments, he said Islam does not put up with corn. It's like, dude, they don't even, you can't be immodestly dressed. It's, look at, now granted, do they take it to an extreme? Perhaps, but what's the difference between an 18th century Catholic or even a Puritan and Islam today?
Or an Amish. Or a Mennonite. I mean, what is
Nick is about to turn this all off and cut the power to his house, man, Jonathan. Don't push him.
I'm with him. We're going to start building boats. We're going to build boats.
He's like, already went to the flip phone. The next step is a corded phone. The next step is messenger pigeon. Mm-hmm. He's going to live stream by pigeon.
Nick loves birds. So
don't tempt me.
It's going to be Nick and Mike Tyson. Okay, so this is what you need to do.
Jr. too.
This is what you need to do, Nick. You see, you have to take the message and you do this, and you have to put in HTTPS, and you have to put in the IP address. And
you gotta hold the bird up by its little wings gently, and you gotta stroke its back a little bit and whisper to it, sing it a little song.
And then you got to take this whole handful of mushrooms, and then it goes to the internet, and Joe Rogan will read it on the air.
And that's how you build an empire, Nick.
This is the shenanigans I miss being with the Goslings, man.
Well, I think to Jonathan's point, getting back to Muslims, I think he's right about they have conviction enough to where, look, what you believe is not what you say you believe.
Yeah.
What you believe is what you do in public. What
Faith
you do in
without
private.
works is dead.
And they, you look at their behavior and you can see what they believe.
Mm-hmm.
That is not the case with a lot of Christians.
Yeah.
And you talk about cultural differences. You can look at Muslims, and the issue of modesty is a great example of how they build a fence around that ideal. It might seem extreme to us. We don't build a fence around anything. We make excuses for violating what we say we believe as evangelicals. You stand an evangelical up next to an unbeliever. There's no visible difference. There's no difference between them until you talk to them.
And even then.
And maybe even then, right. But I'm saying, to that point, how are we visibly different as Christians?
I would be interested to see a study on, let's say, third generation Western immigrants who came over from Muslim countries, and how much of an antidote that religious upbringing is to sort of like the liberal Western decadence that is the air that we breathe and the waters that we swim in. Because I see what you're saying, like immigrants that come over from the Middle East, 100% with you. Second generation, sure. By that third generation, I'm willing to bet things get a little iffy.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think that is, Ian?
It's a great question. I mean, we see this in Asian households, right? Mom and dad come over from China, work their butts off. They give their kid a good upbringing, send them to school. Their child does well. They get a master's, they get a PhD. They give the grandchildren everything in the world, every opportunity. And I mean, it's crapshoot from there. Once you are comfortable enough in a place to where it's like, you got to make it or break it. I don't know. It's, but this seems to be the pattern. Like by the third generation, the disconnect between those values that your grandparents held, that are holdovers from the homeland, I mean, they tend to break down by the numbers.
Well,
so, I mean, I don't know if that's the case with Muslim families. I would like to see.
It's the same thing it's the cycle of civilizations, and those that do not allow that cycle where it's I build something, I hand it off. By that third generation, they don't value it. It's the slaves freeing themselves, strong men, making weak men, going into slavery. That's how that cycle works. And the only way to not have that cycle is to be vigilant, but it's incredibly difficult. And as we see through history, near impossible. I mean, like, honestly, I think the only reason Islam in the Middle East has been able to kind of insulate themselves from it is because they just keep on killing each other.
Yeah, that
it's also really hot there.
Keeps you crazy. And but you forgot the most important thing that makes the in the that family that comes over from China, the most important thing that they give their children is
emotional damage.
I bet you
I love Stephen He, man. He's great.
He is
I
great.
think the same thing probably happens with wealth too.
Yeah.
You know, so I wonder, like I was wondering as you were talking about that, Ian, you know, is that a Muslim America problem? Is that a religion in a secular environment problem? Or is that just a human generational problem? You know, because you do see that, like with, you know, families who come into a lot of wealth, the second generation, well, this was my father's company and I'm going to make sure that I live up to my father's reputation. And, you know, by the time the third guy rolls around, if it's not some too big to fail, you know, monopolized empire, you know, oh, my granddaddy started this you know, company, and it's great, but IBM wants to buy it for $40 million. And, you know, that's all the money I'll ever need. And it'd take me another 20 years to divest myself of $40 million in this company. And what do I care what my grandfather wanted to do? He was probably racist anyways, you know?
It makes you at least tip your hat to the Rothschilds and the Vanderbilts, because they have value. They have instilled value and honor in the name. And that is something that we've lost in our modern society and culture. Whereas I was talking to my buddy Corey, who was here recording trumpet last week. He knows secular. They call themselves Reformed Jews, which I'm like, how are you Reformed when you're secular? They don't observe any of the holidays. But they know what tribe they're from. They know their history. They have, you know, and I don't know how much you guys know about Jewish culture, but they have their family scrolls. This is something that is handed down. Like these scrolls are something like hundreds of years old, because they have been handed down through the centuries. And
Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere.
Okay, cool.
I just gotta let the dog in. Hold on a
Gotcha.
second.
Making sure it wasn't
I'm gonna go dark for a minute. Hold on.
Gotcha. Just making sure it wasn't the CIA, Nick. You know, you kind
Feds knocking on the door.
you kind of poked the bear a little bit.
You don't have to talk to them, by the way.
But you know, there's something to that. Ian. I tried to blow past it, but I couldn't. I just couldn't.
Sorry.
Oh, love you, Danny. We'll hit you up. We're overdue for a hangout. I went to his. He's got a little 1-bedroom studio that he's putting together, and he's helping me build By Faith Studio. And man, we were sitting there trying to do music while talking about the Nephilim, and that's really hard, because it's like 15 minutes of biblical theological discussion, then it's like 5 minutes of music, and then it's like, oh, but did you just see this one thing? And then, you know, it's hard to make music when you discuss those things. But you know, it's the book of so there's that value and honor in the name, and they do have that in India, in much of the Middle East, where the family name, the family honor has tremendous value and respect. And this is something that Andrew Tate has talked about with PBD, with even before his arrest. He's like, man, there's something about respecting what my father has built, what my father has instilled, and my grandfather, and we just don't really have that in American culture.
Yeah,
we don't.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is, you know, that pioneer spirit that was necessary a few hundred years ago. Like, you got to make it on your own. And then along the way, we've birthed this myth in our country of, like, you know, go your own way. You got to be your own person. Whereas other parts of the world, I was watching the Food Network the other day, and they were showing a butcher shop in Italy. And it's like the guy, young guy, probably like 30s, 40s maybe. He was the butcher, and that shop's been in his family for the last 700 years. It's like, this is just what we do. We butcher meat. This is our shop. This is what our family does.
that's
I mean, they're culturally insulated from that problem.
Listen to me, Giuseppe. You are a regalia, they cut the meat, and you're going to cut the meat. You're not going to be a painter. You're not going to be a musician. You're not going to work on the cars. You cut the meat, okay? For 700 years, this is what we do. Go and cut the meat.
I want to be a dancer. I want to be a Pinocchio with no strings. Why you tie me down with your strings?
He's doing Godfather. What are you doing? Oh, you go to Hollywood, become a Pinocchio. Stop it.
You're gonna help me.
Best line of that movie. Finocchio. Was Finocchio or Fagliacci something? He made up an Italian homosexual word, and you could see bro, and what's his face? The guy from Gone in 60 Seconds, the old man, like he's just he's laughing, and it's like, yo, it's a good thing that his actual reaction was the reaction that fit the scene. Be a man.
Like, what's wrong with tribal local isolationism? Like Ian makes a great point. Like that guy, family owned a butcher shop for 700 years. Do you think that guy's like discontent?
I don't think he struggles with anxiety and depression, to be honest.
No. And he's probably fulfilled. He's probably like, I mean, dude, I remember when my family on my mom's side, my collection of white trash trailer park Judases, after mom died, they all got together and they basically forced me to sell a 100-acre farm that had been in our family for almost a century, which by American standards, pretty good, And
that's like half the age of the country, bro.
Yeah. For like not an extreme amount of money either. Like it was arguably almost as painful as losing my mother, because it's like I've lost a touchstone legacy, and like we would deer hunt on it. Nick and I had some great adventures and stories camping out there. We had some good times on it, but it's just like losing that was like being cut off from the world and existence in your life in a way. Like your legacy had just been taken out from under you. So I can only imagine like the weight of responsibility of bearing the mantle of a business that your family has had for 700 years. That's really cool. That's way cooler than winning the lottery.
Man, it's value, and it's instilling in children what is truly valuable. And it's funny that you put it that way, Jonathan, because it reminds me of what Ramses says in The Prince of Egypt. I can't remember how many thousands of years that he said his family's dynasty, and he's like, I will not be the weak link that breaks the chain.
Yeah.
That's power. That motivation is, to me, that's where that movie took a step forward from Charlton Heston's 10 Commandments, because you're looking at like the motivation of Yul Brynner's Ramsey. It's like, oh, he's jealous. He's, I'm superior. It was superiority, arrogance. Whereas,
thing.
Yeah, like he's like, dude, I'm not gonna be the weak chain that breaks the link.
Yeah, that's admirable. That's noble. Ill-advised, ill-intentioned, or wrong-headed for whatever contextual reason. Yeah, but like, that's a noble thing to say.
Dude, it makes you, it's like our conversation with Nefarious, having the questions of like, man, what, Jonathan? Holy crap. You need to write this down. Conversation with the demon. You need to write that. You need to write down go to prayer and get a Holy Ghost download of what that conversation we were talking about, what that would look like. Because you look at like, one of the moments in that Prince of Egypt film that really grabs me, and I know we're kind of getting a little bit away from the Sound of Freedom, but I'm going to find a way to circle it back. You know what always grabs my heart? And it's fiction, because we know Pharaoh died at the bottom of the sea with all of his soldiers. But in this film, they kind of made a little twist of it. When he's yelling for Moses on the rocks, and it's not anger, it's abandonment.
Yeah.
Dude, that gets me because it makes him human, not this Bond villain, not this,
Right. Cardboard cutout.
Yep.
Yeah. Dimensional brimstone spitting bad guy.
That I think was what was compelling, and what they did a good job with that first guy that he caught you who said, I never live out my fantasies. He had all the videotapes. He had thousands of tapes.
No,
He's like,
yeah.
I don't
you
act
live
on.
out your fantasies every night, sir.
Yeah, he's like, I don't act on them though. And it's like okay, this isn't. These are people. The crazy thing was when they find the guy in the van where they found the kid that they had called Teddy Bear, changed his name, and it's interesting actually that they changed his name. It's interesting that the Lord will give us new names as a reward, and the enemy tries to take away our names. What was it that I saw actually? Oh, it's in Nefarious. See, once again, these things to me, man, they're so synonymous. He's like, names mean something. Names are important. Remember that, Jonathan? Nick, have you seen Nefarious yet?
Not yet.
Okay, you got to watch it, and then you got to bring me on the Gosling so we can do a film review with you, because I am very, very interested to hear your thoughts on that film, man.
Okay.
But his names have meaning. Names have power. And what do they do to that kid? The first thing they do, take his name.
Yeah.
First thing they
Well, it
do.
dehumanizes him too. It dehumanizes him.
You're not
Like
who you are
it-
anymore.
It makes him a toy, basically.
Yeah.
You should
One
have
of the-
EFAP it.
What's that?
Oh, I know you probably can't do that, copyright strike, but
What is it?
so there's this YouTube channel where they call it EFAP every frame a pause, and they just spend like 6 hours going through a movie, dissecting every line and every bit of dialogue, and just they deep dive into film. It's a fun time. But anyway.
Oh, I definitely I wouldn't want to do that on Sound of Freedom, and I don't know if I would want to do it on Nefarious, though. Like I said, the first week after I bought the film, I watched it 3 times. I think 3.5 times.
Hey, Gabe, I want to
It's
say
so
something.
dense, you almost have to.
Go ahead, Nick.
When Jonathan was talking about that incident when Mom died, and her side of the family kind of came out of the woodwork and forced the selling of this family land. There is no other family land.
Yeah.
It's just this piece of property that the grandparents grew up on. The remnants of their home is still on this land.
Mm.
I knew that it hurt deeply. One of the things that hurt me the most, or frustrated me the most, that I couldn't get my head around, was that nobody else saw the value of this family legacy, this touchstone that Jonathan's talking about. It didn't mean anything to them. Their history, their people, their lineage meant nothing to them. They just wanted their quick share of the proceeds of the sale.
30 pieces of silver.
Yeah.
They wanted their 30 pieces of silver for that family land. And that's one thing about our culture that's really disappointing. We have no pride in who we are, where we came from, who our ancestors were, what they endured. We don't understand, whose blood do we have in our veins?
Yeah.
Man, I heard this Jonathan shared with me this
By the way, that's one of the coolest things that Nick has ever proactively done is a genealogy study on our.
Well, hey man, when you guys told me we started talking about, your podcast, and I started helping you, and I was talking, I actually had to talk Jonathan into like, no man, this needs to make money. And kind of helping Nick out, convince him. And I don't remember if I know I told you this, Jonathan, because when you told me the story of this, I don't know if I told you, Nick, but my dream for you guys is that your podcast would get to a point where you'd be able to buy that land back.
That's my only objective with my books. I would sell the Heavenly Realms rights to Homo Broadcasting Organization tomorrow if it meant I could have the
Homo BC.
whatever it would take to buy back that, borderline crappy 100-acre plot of land in Carthage, Tennessee.
Oh, it's not crappy. It's gorgeous.
It's
Rolling
heaven.
hills,
It's your
right
slice
down
of heaven,
to the
man.
riverfront. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
Bro,
it's
the way you described it in your short stories that hopefully will come out soon, I so wanted to go there. Like, I was ready to go buy my camping gear. Like, okay, get Nick's boy, get your brothers. I'll get my brothers, and we're going stinking camping, looking for some puppies,
right.
and waiting to see who's going to take a poop in the woods.
Yep. Who's going to be the bear?
But, Nick, to your point, Jonathan sent me this thing today of these two guys jokingly. It's very much like a conversation of us offline. Not as a little dirtier, but they were talking about when Pearl Harbor was bombed. And, when in the military, when you raise the flag, it's a ceremony. This is not something that you do haphazardly.
Yeah.
Because of what it represents, okay? It's
Right.
not, we don't
Right.
worship the flag. It is a representation of people that spilled blood to have what we have today. They were getting bombed, and they continued to play the national anthem to completion while being bombed. You want to talk about value of where we are and where we came from, and it's sad that people like me and other Hispanic Americans, from the Caribbean, come here to this place, and we understand, and I embrace that flag. I'm like, man, this is a beautiful thing, warts and all, mistakes and all, because you got to have a stupid. I got to qualify everything, and you have people that have been here their entire, 4 or 5 generations. And they're like, oh, America's a horrible place. I'm like, man, get off the planet. Go walk off the edge, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm having to lighten it up because if not, I'll just get cussing mad. It drives me crazy. Q Bill Conti. Oh, Rudy. Oh, that's Rudy. Dude, that's Rudy Landa, y'all. It took me a minute. I'm like, who is Miru? I was like, I know who Miru is.
Miru. Rudy, what's up, man?
Yeah, Rudy
Great
gets it. We
interview the other day.
Yes, you did.
Oh, did he do that film?
Yes, Angels
Yes.
and Giants. That's he's talking
Yeah,
about.
awesome.
He said Angel Studios has a real chance to capitalize on the momentum of this success and become a real player in the movie studio world. Rudy, I should have got Rudy. Have you seen Sound of Freedom? Sound off in the comments of your favorite part. I gotta know, Rudy. Yeah, my mom is praying the same thing that you'll get your land back. I mean, dude, isn't that the whole thing? It's like, why is it so important? It's so funny. If it doesn't matter, communist, proclaiming to be a Christian, if owning land doesn't matter, why in the world was God so obsessed in making sure that Israel had what he promised Abraham? You got to go back and look. I told Abraham this was his. Why does that matter? If Jesus is a communist, then there's no such thing as private property or property rights. Riddle me this, Batman. Sorry, as I get tired, I'm getting obnoxious.
So you're like all the time, I guess? Easy joke. Sorry.
So I got about 15 minutes before I gotta go. But I wanted to throw this out there. Jonathan, you texted this in the group chat a few nights ago. Speaking of Angel Studios. You said Sound of Freedom is basically a project funded by American Catholics and Mormons. To me, which I'm reading your text, so to you, this is a potential red flag, if not a clarion call for Protestants to get up off what my mom's going to watch, so I can't say this word, off of our butts,
anuses,
stop being so fragmented so that we can pool our resources and make something. Mormons are the second largest wealth demographic in the country. Catholics are probably third. Should we, as Protestants, be concerned about this?
I think challenged. It's
challenged, certainly. Yeah.
I don't think it's concerned. It's like, what are you doing? I mean, I was thinking about this today. I was doing an exercise walk in 90-degree weather with a 7-month-old puppy that doesn't get tired. baking in the sun at noon and thinking to myself, Lord, I know there's fundamental issues, severe fundamental issues with Mormonism, but you guarded that man and gave him favor to go into the enemy's territory and rescue, steal that young girl back, and you have been with him to continue to do this for other children. You're giving him favor. What are we missing? Are we missing something? We're missing something because we're obsessed with having the next great church service, the next big church movement, revival. And don't get me wrong. I mean, I pray for these things. But at what point it's like, are we making a difference? Like, these people are actually going out in the world and making a difference. And what are we doing? What are we doing?
I don't think Ballard is Mormon or Catholic. I'm pretty sure he's Protestant evangelical.
Is he?
I thought he was Mormon. I could be under a misapprehension.
Don't believe he is, but could be wrong. Yeah, no, I was just curious why
Ballard grew up in California as a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, come on. He's blue-eyed, blonde hair. Come on. That's him.
I mean, it only would have made it more obvious if he was from Utah, but, California, it's pretty close.
Yeah.
Timothy Ballard, smart.
But I agree with you. I remember when you wrote that, Jonathan, I was like, you know what? You're right, man. I mean, here you got a Mormon and a Catholic going out here, and they're fighting the devils. They're fighting the dragons, man.
Yeah.
Literal dragons. And I don't look down on the ministers. I look at a controversial figure. Like, let's look at Todd White. I mean, the guy goes and prays for people. He prays for Satanists. He goes to Africa. He prays for people. I'm like, okay, he's doing something. He's getting off his butt. He's going out there. He's not building mega churches. He's not building big buildings. When he's discipling people, he's like, hey, I'm going to teach you how to go pray for people. We're going to go and pray for people. We're not going to have a conference on how to pray for people. We're going to go out to Walmart. And we're going to pray for people.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what I told Shannon last night. She's like, I don't know how to share my testimony. I'm like, when you see the bull,
just did.
She did. And I said, when you see the bull dyke at the supermarket, it was so funny because they were like, oh, he actually said it. I'm like, well, what else am I supposed to say?
I know.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
It's a black dog. It's a bull dyke. I mean, like, I'm not being mean. I'm not. And I'm not trying to be, oh, fantastic. Oh, he said a word. You go and you share your testimony. Say, hey, can I tell you, if you don't want to, I know you're not happy. I know because I lived that life. I mean, whatever I told her, I said, you go and you open your mouth and the Holy Spirit will give you your words. That's why I'm like, Nick, man, it's like, dude, as fathers, as men, you need to be armed. You need to be ready. Get your face out your phone and pay attention to what's going on when you go to the supermarket, when you go to the gas station. Have a word of God in your mouth. You need to have been in the Word of God within the last 24 hours, so you have a scripture if you need to war in the Spirit. But you also need to be ready to war if danger comes a knocking. And I think that's it. I think we lean too hard on one or the other, and it's both. We have to, it's the extremes of one or the other. It's like, well, we wrestle not against flesh and blood. Okay, so what are they going to do when you're in the store and some guy comes in, or there's three guys and they come and grab your kid? What are you going to do? You're going to fight off three 25-year-olds with your dad bod?
Or what are you going to do when, the parade comes down the street, or somebody starts wagging something in front of your kids' faces?
Or they're doing the drag show at anywhere within 15 miles of where you live. I tell you what, brother, that happens where I live. If I'm the only one going out there, I'm going down there. And I'm going to be like, this is not, I'll go down there speaking in tongues, proclaiming the gospel, and whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. If people want just like a starting place on what to do about these things, I think the best place you could start is just take Solzhenitsyn's advice and live not by lies. Like, they can't make you live a lie. Tell the truth.
Yes. That's
Just live the truth.
very
live it
astute. Dropping
day.
Solzhenitsyn in there.
Yeah, nice.
Casually dropping Solzhenitsyn. That's how it's like to hang out with me. Just casually drop Alexander Solzhenitsyn.
You know what? I think if you can just Alexander Solzhenitsyn's name, you should be able to casually drop him. And just
Yeah, that's true. I got the Gulag Archipelago behind me, so.
Oh, Brandon the Zealot. Hold up, I got to read this comment. He said, cessationists are student mechanics that are angry at Pentecostals who took the car out and did donuts in the parking lot.
That's amazing.
Nice.
I know Rudy's laughing at that one. But you know what? But here's
That's
to your point, Brandon the Zealot. But if we don't have the mechanics, who fixes the car? Because I tell you, the Pentecostals are really good at wrecking the car. Really good at wrecking the car. They're good at wrecking the car, like into the ditch, like having the accident, going to the hospital. So this is why we need each other. This is why we need both arms of the church. All right. Last thoughts on this film, Sound of Freedom. Just whatever God puts on your heart. We'll start with the youngest and then go to the oldest. So I'm going to give Nick as the special guest. I'm going to give Nick the last word as my elder brother. So we're going to go Ian, Jonathan, me, then Nick. Go take as long as you need.
Yeah, Sound of Freedom, good movie. Any other point in history, I think it's like a B- probably as a film on its own merits, but just everything surrounding this movie, just the way that it makes the demons seethe when you talk about it is worth the price of admission. So for that reason alone, it makes all the right people angry. If you haven't seen it already, go see it again. Or go see it. And if you have seen it, go see it again. It's a good movie. I understand the sentiment that, you got to do more than just talk. And I get that. I agree. But listen, we haven't talked enough about it. And the reaction to this movie, I think, is the proof in the pudding. I don't know how many quote unquote normies that I've talked to personally, just at work, at church, who had no idea how deep this well goes, how deep the rabbit hole goes. They had no idea. And so I get it for people who've been knowing about this for years and years. You're like, how long can the season of awareness go on? I'm sorry to say, the season of awareness has only just begun. And so it seems frustrating to people who've been in the know for a while, but the ship can't turn on a dime. And, do what you can. I think COVID taught us that who your mayor and who your local sheriff are is more important than who's in office in a lot of cases. So for people who see this movie and feel that holy fire rise up, do what you can. If you have a certain set of skills, run for county sheriff. Get involved, put skin in the game. And I think about Amos, not everyone can be that I forget what dogs you used, Jonathan.
Belgian Malinois.
Yeah, there are golden retrievers out there. I'm probably more of a retriever myself, to be honest. But if you feel that holy fire in you, do what you feel like the Lord is compelling you to do. And if that's speaking out, that's speaking out. If that's getting some skin in the game and running for office, go do that. Leverage the power that you have. Not everybody is trained with a certain set of skills like Liam Neeson is. So not everyone can, pick up an AR and call their buddy who's a PI and say, point me to where the action is. That's not feasible for most people. If it's feasible for you, look, I'm not telling you what to do, but do what you feel like in your heart the Lord is leading you to do. And the one thing we can all do, if I can casually drop Solzhenitsyn again, is to always speak the truth. They can't make you live a lie. You're the only one. You don't have to use the pronouns. You can call it like it is. You can tell the truth, and telling the truth makes the demons seethe. So that would be my spiel. Go see Sound of Freedom, tell people about it, and just commit to telling the truth the way that the Lord commands us to, because you're never more like the devil when you lie, because he's the father of lies. So anyway, that's my final thoughts.
It's beautiful. Beautiful. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, that was great. I would say final thoughts on Sound of Freedom. Probably should not use your kids as an excuse not to see the movie. I think this is safe enough for most families to be able to go see. Hashtag not all families. You can figure that out for yourself. There's nothing, if you and your kids watch TV at night, you can go watch this movie, you know? And you don't have to explain everything to them. You can maybe take some bathroom breaks, mitigate whatever, but also, like, I saw tons of families in that movie theater, and I didn't see any parents leave with their kids at any point during the movie, except to go take a bathroom break and then come back. And so I think people should definitely go see the movie, not see the movie because, like, they, can't find a babysitter for, their 12-year-old or something. It's like, dude, your 12-year-old is already way worse if you let him have TikTok. So you're not protecting him from anything for you. But get a babysitter if you can. And for you personally, as I'll only talk to men because I only understand men, sort of. Take personal responsibility. Be willing to take personal responsibility. Do whatever you feel led to do, and do not feel ashamed about it. Pray about it. Assess pros and cons, but you definitely need to spread the word about the movie. You definitely need to have conversations about this kind of thing. Probably need to have some family strategies in place. And you need to probably get some training across 3 or 4 different matrices, not just firearms. I mean, you need to have a plan for your kids. You need to have a plan for your wife. There's AI now. So, kidnappers call you using AI to mimic your kids. So, just don't let theaters use excuses to not show the movie. Like, dude, sit there until they kick you out. They can play the movie. I've seen enough of that happen to know that that's crap. So yeah, draw a line in the sand, basically. Just don't give up an inch. If you can't spill a red line in the sand and not give up an inch no matter what over this, then, like, you really are a golden retriever and you don't deserve to be a father. So there you go.
I don't like this golden retriever slander, by the way.
I see you more as a maybe like a Pyrenees of sorts, Ian.
I had Goldens. We had 2. I love those dogs.
Oh, I love golden retrievers too. Yeah. I knew a very bad golden retriever once.
Oh, that's harsh.
I can't. Yeah. I'm trying to find a sound to.
Only one.
Because it's completely eluding me because I haven't made my own sound effects for this for the stream deck from Dune. So I'm just gonna have to give him a
skin that smoke wagon and see what happens.
I didn't give you that, but yeah, personal responsibility. Personal responsibility. Speak the truth. I want to share a couple links here of other people that are doing these work, and this is believers. This is a man, Pastor Troy Brewer. I've met him several times. I've heard him preach several times. Incredible man of God. I've read 90% of one of his books about time, from a spiritual, biblical, and scientific point of view. He rescues children. He goes and buys children and pulls them out of, and has tremendous testimony. And you should check out some of his stuff. He's had children come in, multiple STDs. I mean, just horrible, horrible ailments from being in this life for years. And they lay hands on these kids. And I mean, they had a girl of AIDS and the Lord healed her. I mean, you talk about, and he's a spirit-filled man, and boy, he's like, listen, man, I'm right wing of Attila the Hun, but whatever the Lord says is what I do. And he's kind of like, the Lord hasn't opened a door for me to take, to go over here and to solve the problem physically, if you know what I mean, because he's like, I don't think I'd ever come back from that. So that's, gotcha. He's charging his stuff. And there's another friend of mine I went to college with, actually, she was at Lee when we were at Lee, Nick. This is Tanya Andre's ministry called the Muvuno Project, that also rescues children out of sex trafficking. She's been in Latin America currently, and she's it's kind of funny, she's glad that this is raising awareness, but she's also frustrated because she's been ringing this bell for, I think, almost 10 years with very little support, especially from churches, because it's too ugly. We don't want to talk about it.
Yep.
So if you want to get engaged, you must take up responsibility. You must be willing to speak the truth. And my addition to this conversation would be, faith without works is dead. So you must act. I love the way that Lester Sumrall puts it. Faith is an action. Period. And without faith, it's impossible to please God. So you, believer, professing to carry the name of the Anointed One, ambassador not of this world, but in this world, to be a light and to be salt. Wherever you can. You don't have to listen. Nobody's asking you to be Superman. I'm not Batman. We love these things. We love the take, and we love the fantasy because it gives you that Rambo impression that one person can go out there and make a difference. Well, one person can go out there and make a difference. But as Tim Ballard went into that horrible place and he rescued one child, how many children were there left behind? Now, he was able to set, well, how many was it? 55, 56 children on the island?
50.
Right? But how many more hundreds, how many more thousands are there out there? And he goes back, and Pastor Troy Brewer is going out there, and my friend Tanya. And I've been talking to my wife. We are praying about which of these people we're going to support financially and with prayer. So like Ian said, maybe you're not a soldier. You don't have the military experience. You're afraid of guns. Look, no harm, no foul. My mom is a prayer warrior, though I've been encouraging her to get armed because she's always with my nieces, and she's a target because she's an elderly Hispanic woman, and she's got children half the time. She's a target. I'm like, Mom, you got to carry. Got to get it in your purse. But she's a prayer warrior, so how can she help? She doesn't have a lot of money, but she knows how to pray, and she knows how to spread the word. So she's going to do what she can do. So whatever it is in your skill set, the Lord, what did the Lord ask Moses? What's in your hand? The rod. Throw it before me. You need to go to the Lord today, tonight, or first thing in the morning, because I know it's late, but you got time to do it tonight and say, Lord, take a self-assessment. What is in my hands? What skill sets do I have that I can offer? What can I bring before you that can be used? Because this is happening all around us, people. We're getting Amber Alerts. I don't know about you. I'm getting Amber Alerts weekly on my phone of children missing. There's the vehicle, it makes a loud sound. You can't stop it from buzzing and make it, it happens all the time. And this is just what we know of. We don't know what's happening around us that we don't know of. Faith is an action. So speak the truth. Take responsibility. Walk in faith, which is take action. And now I'm going to turn it over to Nick to have the last word.
Okay. That was really good. So go see Sound of Freedom. If you have a spouse, see it with your spouse. I would actually disagree with my brother and say don't take your kids. You know your children. If this is the type of thing that you want to expose them to and the type of conversations you want to have, feel free. But, depending on the child, I don't think the content is kid appropriate any more than I think the content of what's going on in public schools is appropriate for children. That's just me. I would not take my kids. However, I do agree with my brother that you have no excuse. You need to see this movie. And not for entertainment reasons. You need to see this movie for awareness. You need to see viscerally what's going on and realize that the world is that ugly. And I would also say that you need to treat this with prayer. 3 months ago, you need to treat this like it's not just another hot topic in the news cycle. Because 3 months ago, there was a revival at Asbury. Who's talking about that now? What's happened? Nothing. When you're unwrapping your Christmas gifts, when you're watching your kids open their Christmas presents 4 or 5 months from now, are you still going to be thinking about those children that are being trafficked? Because if you're not, this was just another piece of entertaining news that we all got to enjoy. We all got to go see a movie, and then we got to forget about it. That's why you need to go see the movie. You need to talk about it. You need to get other people to see it. And you need to get involved. You need to support organizations that are rescuing children. Maybe you need to divert your tithe or a portion of your tithe to these organizations. Maybe you need to volunteer and go be a part of it. And I will say this. When you stand before, if you ever have the opportunity to take part in rescuing a child from trafficking, when you're standing before judgment after you die, God is not going to ask you if you followed the law. He's not going to ask you if you obeyed the law. I would say follow the law. Do what's right and legal. And when no one is looking, don't do anything or fail to do anything that you're going to have to answer for. And that's all I got.
Amen, brother.
Amen. Amen. Nick, that's why you had the last word.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's
It's been
it.
fun, man. Thanks for sending me the link and let me jump on with you guys.
It was, as I joke with my friends, with my Pentecostal cessation or continuationist friends, it was appointed of the Lord that you be here tonight. It was his sovereign will that you be a part of this conversation.
Well, for all of us. For all of us.
Amen.
I'm glad you freely chose to obey the Lord's sovereign decree and join us.
Spoken like
Calvinist. No.
Wait a minute, Ian's a Calvinist?
No, maybe
I'm out.
I'm not.
I'm out.
He doesn't know that he is. None of us know that we are, but we are. I wish, man. I think Rod's gone. If
I've
Rod,
been sovereignly decreed not to be a Calvinist.
if Rod was here, he would be rolling, laughing. Oh my God, yeah. NDG's crying. Yeah. Well, I was about to cry because of how powerful Nick. You know, I'm holding back tears. I'm waiting to cry, as man does. Man cries alone. So I'm gonna go cry alone, just like when I was talking about Never Ending Story a couple weeks ago, The Swamps of Sadness. Oh, Rod is here. Oh, Rod, I thought you'd be jumping all up on that. I hope you got a good laugh. I can't wait to get Rod and Nick on a live stream together because they're so low key and B personality, the opposite of me and Jonathan. We're bouncing off the walls and they're just stoic, stalwart, constant. It's beautiful. But we need each other, right? All right. I'm going to have to clip out just that last little bit because that was powerful. So speak the truth, take responsibility, take action in faith. And Nick, I can't wrap what you said in just like a little snippet, man. It's, oh, gosh, how would you summarize that? Can you summarize what you said in one sentence?
I'm not good at being succinct.
Jonathan, can you? Ian, it was too good.
Can I summarize someone else's point in a sentence?
I would say, don't fear him who can destroy the body. Fear him who can cast both the body and soul into hell. And I would say, and all in the context of Sound of Freedom. And I would say, don't treat it like another piece of sensational, trending news.
It's not entertainment.
It's not entertainment.
Yeah.
And what Nick said about Ashbury is very, very true. And what he's talking about with like the law and faith, I mean, Jesus said, render unto Caesar's what is Caesar's, render unto God's what is God's. But the question that people don't seem to often ask themselves is, what is Caesar's and what is God's?
These children are not for sale. God's children are not for sale.
That's
There you go.
Speak the truth, take responsibility, walk in faith, fear the Lord, because God's children are not for sale. We love you, and Jesus loves you. So do we. Y'all take care. Peace.
See you guys.
Yeah.